The fight over the Affordable Care Act is not just a fight over the soul of the Republican Party. Ohio's Governor John Kasich thinks it's a fight over his soul. Governor John Kasich's one of the handful of Republican governors who have openly supported Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act in their states. Kasich, who is up for re-election in 2014, offered this divine inspiration about expanding Medicaid.
When you die and get to the meeting with St. Peter, he's probably not going to ask you much about what you did about keeping government small, but he's going to ask you what you did for the poor. You better have a good answer.
After Ohio's Republican legislature passed a budget bill that included language specifically forbidding the expansion of Medicaid in Ohio, Governor Kasich used his line item veto powers to eliminate that provision, just strike it. He blocked it, so that block of the expansion of Medicaid was gone from the law. But the governor then brought the issue to a little-known committee in Ohio called the Controlling Board and got them to vote 5-2 to accept $2.5 billion in Medicaid funds to provide coverage for 275,000 Ohio citizens. Today, the Wall Street Journal editorial board attacked Governor Kasich in an editorial entitled "Medicaid and the Apostle Kasich, the Ohio governor's lawless, faith-based Obamacare expansion." The editorial said, now Mr. Kasich seems to view signing up for this part of Obamacare as an act of Christian charity and has literally all but claimed that God told him to do so. The editorial then reminded Governor Kasich that when it comes to his future, quote, Republicans get a vote before St. Peter does. Joining me now is Sister Simone Campbell, Executive Director of the Catholic Social Justice Lobby Network and leader of Nuns on the Bus, and Ari Melber, co-host of MSNBC's The Cycle. Well, Sister Simone, I didn't think I was going to see this, a point at which the conservative Wall Street Journal editors are bothered by faith-based governing.
It is pretty surprising, isn't it? But I think what really shocked me in that editorial was the fact that never once did they even refer to the fact that 275,000 people in Ohio do not have health care and will get health care through Medicaid expansion. It was shocking to me that they were trying to act so sanctimonious and define what faith is, and they seem to think that faith is only the Republican approach.
And Ari, it was politically kind of fascinating to watch how close they came to mocking religious faith and Christianity within a Wall Street Journal editorial.
Yeah, I mean, this is the other big split in the party. We've talked a lot about the Tea Party radicals versus sort of the Wall Street consensus. You also have sometimes the religious conservatives who do want to do things either for the poor, as we heard, or just logical policies that if you're a governor you have to answer for. This is now the 8th Republican governor, joining 26 states total that have opted in. And if you don't opt in, by the way, then you're leaving the poorest citizens without this coverage, which leads to a perverse outcome, because we have these federal subsidies, right, for people who are more middle income. To leave the others out, as some Republican governors insist on continuing to do for political reasons, is wrong. I think this is a great step. The fact that this is a governor who had an exploratory committee wanting to run as a Republican presidential candidate in '99 and might run again also shows you there is a future in the Republican Party beyond only demagoguing Obamacare.
And there is this from the Wall Street Journal editorial today. Governor Kasich's intentions are laudable, though that government as thy brother's keeper riff needs some moral fine-tuning. St. Peter might recoil at a Medicaid program that reimburses doctors so poorly that fewer will take Medicaid patients, and the quality of care is increasingly, well, poor. Sister Simone, your theological education is, of course, much more complete than mine, but I can't think of what I have read that would indicate St. Peter would recoil at Medicaid reimbursement rates.
Absolutely not. I mean, the fact is that the doctors are provided for, hospitals are provided for. What this law is doing is bringing down the overall costs, and that is something that our economy needs. St. Peter would probably be pleased at it, but not have a theological opinion about it. Yeah. I think what really is key here, though, is also the pragmatic fact that hospitals who serve the uninsured are scheduled to, through the law, to have their payments, their DSH payments, disproportional share payments, reduced. So if we do not have the poor insured, then there's going to be no money for hospitals to take care of them. And that is a disaster for our entire system. So it's really important, both from a faith justice perspective, that people get care, but it's also pragmatic for hospitals to be able to afford it.
Ari Melber, of course, the law was written that the Medicaid expansion was mandatory in all states. This is the part that the Supreme Court did rewrite. They did carve out the fact that it was mandatory, made it optional, at which point I simply presumed any Republican governor who ever hoped to run for president would absolutely not accept the expansion of Medicaid. And so it makes me wonder, is this the moment where John Kasich is saying, well, if that's the choice, I'm going to choose Medicaid for my state over running for president? It
could be that, and you heard him speak, I think, from his heart about the religious values. Whatever St. Peter would do, I mean, that's a booking request.
Leave that to Sister Simone and me, okay?
Leave that to you guys, or maybe if you can get your booking team on it, get him in here some way. But wherever you go on that hypothetical, it may be from the heart, which is great. It also may be the direction of the party. It's also important that people understand, we reacted to that Obamacare ruling by saying, wow, they've upheld the individual mandate, which is the heart of federal policy. But never before had we seen really an activist Republican court try to open up a huge exception, right? Basically inviting the states here, opt out of this federal policy before the government could condition funds and say, if you don't want in, you could get out, and they would have lost all their Medicaid funds. And Noah Feldman, a respected Harvard law professor, said, this was a very political move by Roberts. Get the headline about upholding it and leaving this back door, which, as we've been discussing, has left a lot of poor people out in the lurch.
And Sister, it's a pretty horrible hole in the law because the people who would only qualify for the Medicaid expansion are actually of a lower income than those who would qualify for the insurance, purchase of insurance subsidized.
That's absolutely true. And the horror of this is that it is the adults without minor children who are the ones most vulnerable. The 40, 50-year-olds, the ones who are working at low wages, do not have it through employment, do not have insurance through employment. But I must tell you that the Catholic Sisters in Ohio have done an amazing job of their own nuns on the bus to make this day happen, where Governor Kasich knew that from a faith perspective, they worked in the interfaith setting as well as directly with him, lobbying for this decision. So I think he had a lot of political pressure, and he also had a lot of faith pressure on him to do justice. This isn't charity. This is justice. Everyone in the richest nation on earth has a right to have health care.
Ari, one other prominent Republican, Chris Christie, has the Medicaid expansion in New Jersey. So it's going to be a factor in the Republican presidential campaign.
I think it's going to be a huge factor. I think they can fight over it. The other thing with the Wall Street Journal demagoguing it and calling it a Obamacade, I don't know if that's because Obamacare is not unpopular enough as people learn about it in the States. And this is a big, big story, I think, that goes to expanding coverage, which is an antidote to some of the short-term emphasis in Washington lately.
Ari Melber and Sister Simone Campbell. Sister, thank you very much for helping us with these big theological questions tonight.
Happy to do it. Thank you.